Thank you. Welcome back to JDD. On Monday, we talk about how to build a Kickass backend. We actually use Quarkus and microprofile. And what I did on Monday, I showed you some code from JDD 2012, and I was curious whether it still run with 2020 technologies, and it looked actually it worked. So, and today what I will try to do is to write some code, and I will hope I will get re-invited to JDD 7 years later, again, 2027, and we should look at the code again and see, is it sustainable or not? And I think whatever I will show you today, it should still run in a browser in 10 years. So this is my hope. If you still like frameworks, what you can do is you can take a look at Vanilla.js. This was actually a hack. What it is Vanilla.js is not a framework. So if you select whatever you like here, what you get an empty zip, because whatever you select is already in the browser. That is actually the funny thing. So what I will do today is a view utilities, and what I like the most, but this is actually not required. In my projects, developers always sometimes use something different, like, we use sometimes Quarkus as a backend for development. Sometimes we use some Python web server. It doesn't matter. Today we are completely Java independent. I will try to show how to learn web with the Java mindset. That's the idea. And the browser thing, what this thing does is it just reloads the browser if something changes on the disk. And now let's start with the slides, because I actually have at least one slide which makes sense. So I really like Java, and my observation is that the longer we wait, the more becomes the web development, like the old Java Swing or even JavaFX development is very, very similar. And what I found in the last 2 years, helping companies moving away from frameworks, the hardcore Java developers really appreciate that it is like it is. So we can use classes, we have methods. Even the layout managers are very similar to layout managers which were available, a few years ago. So this is actually the thing is now, if you're a Java developer and you ignored all the web, I think now is the best time to start, and you become immediately a web guru. That's the idea. So about me, so I write a blog post, a blog which is more or less a notepad, and from time to time I deliver workshops at Munich Airport, now online of course, and there are some pre-recorded workshops, and there's also a podcast. And if you have any questions left, this thing is just fun. Don't write me an email, just ask on Airhacks TV, and I will answer all the questions once a month. You don't even have to register, just watch and ask questions. And the question you can put on GitHub Gist. And I think that will be the 80th episodes. I'm doing this for 5 years, and lots of fun. And I save a lot of time because I don't have to answer emails anymore. So, which is business, of course, but no more technical emails. Okay, this is the online courses, and I think the most interesting one is the last one for now, web components with lit HTML and Redux. And what we did on Monday is related to the first one. And there are the pre-recorded courses. Okay. How to access the smog? What I learned from Wikipedia, the English one, is that in Krakow you have a dragon, and I actually saw the dragon, not the real one, rather than the sculpture. And the dragon is called Smog from Wawel, and we just playfully wrote a backend. And today I will try to write the front end for the backend and try to make them work. What I will just use is no frameworks at all, so no Angular, no React, no Vue.js. What I would like to do instead is to focus on ES6, which is JavaScript, CSS3, and then whatever is in browser, for instance, web components are available everywhere, so you don't even need a polyfill. And then I would like to talk, how to learn new things. So how to get the knowledge, because usually people ask me, nice, because if I learn, Angular, then I build, the hero app, and then I know how it works. And for React, there's another app. But what do you do if you have nothing? And you have probably, or I hope, a good answer for that. And what I like the most, there's no magic. So you don't, in my projects and we are in some really large projects where we have, to port hundreds of views to nothing, to web components. We don't even have NPM or we have NPM on our machines installed, but we don't have to use it. So we just use the browser sync. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So as a motivation, this is like the SAP conference last year, and I put you the link to the video here. And by the way, the slides are already checked in to, I forgot to show you this completely. So there is a GitHub, Adam Bean, and Junk stands for talks. And I already checked in the slides as well, all the links. You don't have to write them down. They're all in the repository. But if you need the content, just copy the content the next three days, because otherwise I will delete it. What already happened, I got pull requests and forks and some people think this is like an open source project. This is just an upload possibility for me. So what SAP did last year, they say, okay, in 2014, we had lots of own infrastructure and we removed everything. And now we're just going with standards and there is no more framework needed. And this is SAP, a big German company, which I would suspect, to be a little bit over-engineered, and they do the contrary. And this is how I try to convince my managers, because, why I care actually, because I'm working with Java. I forgot actually, sorry, to introduce myself, since 1995, and I'm freelancer since 1997. And I enjoy my work. I think just because I focus on somehow standards or things which were stable. And the same is true for the web. What I do right now, I focus on web components and not crazy frameworks, because the frameworks are coming and going. So at the beginning of October was PhoneGap was, for instance, is no more operational. And what happened to Angular 1 and so forth, right? So if you focus on the standards, you only have to learn the difference, the deltas, and without any stress. So this is why I appreciate standards, or something which is at least stable or implemented by multiple vendors, multiple browsers, and so forth. Okay. What surprised me, this was the question from Sylvia. Sylvia, she asked me, what about SpaceX? I accidentally found that. And the funny story is, this is Ask Me Anything with the SpaceX engineers. And the reaction of one of the reader of Reddit ask the SpaceX engineer, mind-blowing, you really broke some established patents by choosing these technologies. Do you consider to open the Sophian report? This is like the repo of web components. And if you considered something during the development to use another well-known library, and the Dead Wisdom is one of the developers says none of that is not established. In fact, the opposite. Web components are built into the browser, JavaScript, CSS, and HTML as well. So it means the dashboard of the SpaceX was actually created with vanilla web components. At least is what the answer was on Reddit. And the same is true for Apple Music, is also built on web components, ING Bank, and so forth. So what I think is, what I'm absolutely sure, that over time, frameworks become less relevant. And I will show you today how to get rid of them completely. So this was the last slide, which is very good, because we need some more time for coding. And what I need here is a little bit of... what I would try to do is, try to do better than yesterday or on Monday. I will try to live commit everything to the repository. So what I created is a script, web standards projects, and now call it Smog user interface, UI. And what happened is it created the Chrome. And let's open this way. And a Visual Studio Code with, I have some plugins installed, but I don't think anything web related. I think I have one for syntax coloring or something, but this is pretty much vanilla Visual Studio Code. And what my magical thing did, it started browser sync. And the browser sync, what I'm using today, this is the entire setup. So I said, hey, browser sync, go please to source folder, open and watch the source folder, and launch Google and push and this was the entire setup for today. So download Visual Studio Code, and then you need this line, and you are set. So I will okay, nice. So what's here? You see almost nothing. So I have one HTML which is almost empty, and the entire thing of browser sync is that I get live updates on the left side. So the app.js is a little bit more interesting. So Hello Web Standards means on every change it will reload the JavaScript, and so go here, and if I change that, the only problem is the size of my screen. So if I change this to, let's say, 2, then we have 2. Okay, so looks good. And ignore the violations. You only get, the errors with browser sync at development times. Production, you won't ship browser sync. You will just ship, the files, copy the files over. Okay, cool. We have no time, or we don't have a lot of time, so I will just speed things up. First, what I would like to do, I would like to activate modules. And this works with type equals module. So what this does, now we have, an ESM module system, which actually becomes also standard on Node.js on the backend, available in the browser. Now I can import, export things. So JavaScript modules are very similar to Java packages. So now you know what JavaScript modules are. And and now let's create our very first web component. And of course, we have to do the smoke, and this has to extend the HTML element, and now the question is from where I know that the element and how to know, look it up. So you can see that it already supported here by Visual Studio Code, but where to get, the information, what HTML element is, and so forth. So for that, I would like to switch quickly to here. And what I use is DevDocs. By the way, this was not the right answer. The right answer is search for MDN, Mozilla Developer Network, and HTML. Why MDN? So all the companies, they committed that the MDN becomes the canonical resource for browser APIs. So if I search and HTML element would be better. HTML element. And here it is, and we have the HTML element. So we see the entire inheritance hierarchy, and we see event target. So it's very, I would say, very similar to Javadoc, what we're accustomed to. And this is why the Java developers, also the Swing developers, really like that. So okay, so we have it. Now what I will show you in a second is, for instance, MDN custom elements. And this is window custom elements defined. So this is browser API, which allows me to register web components, also available here. So of course, this is not very convenient. And for that purpose, I use DevDocs. DevDocs.io is a free kind of web app, which is able to offline download, offline all the browser APIs. So what I can do here is I can say, HTML element as well, and I will find hopefully the same content. This was a little bit slow because it's not cached, so it's not downloaded to the browser window. So this is called DevDocs.io. Okay, so now we have, and what we learned is custom elements.define, and you saw that, and of course it has to start with JDD, and the smoke is the dragon. And smoke, this is wrong, but I have no time to, or we have time to fix it right now. This is not the smoke, this is the smoke. So now we have it. Okay, so what I can do is, in Java we have post construct, for instance in Quarkus and Helidon, and in web components we have connected callback, exactly the same thing. So I could just use this here, and I would just close that, it's annoying. So, and then say what I could do is, if I would look at the devdocs.io, HTML, Javadoc, JSDoc API description, I would find that there is something like this, and I can use backticks, which is basically multi-line string, what we have in Java. And we do the H2 and say smoke from Vavel. So this is the castle. So probably you have, attendees from all over the world. There's a little bit education about Krakow. So we have smoke from Vavel. Now what I can do is I can just activate the smoke here and say now I have my own tag and say JDD, it was smoke. And if I save it, you see nothing. Wait a second. So this is index app.js, JDD smoke connected callback. JDD smoke connected callback, this HTML. This is completely wrong. This inner HTML, of course. I was too fast. Smoke from Vavel. So always follow the code completion. I'm using stock ES6, no TypeScript. So this inner HTML. So HTML comes later. So we have now the smoke from Vavel, and of course, what I could do is I can say const, message to the smoke, and then say some fire. and then say with, and then this, which is not possible yet with Java, I can say message. And then you get, this with some fire. And I can also pass, some messages to the smoke and say, hey, message is hello JDD. And then I can access that with this get attribute from where I know that, because I looked, always on the MDN stuff. So we have that, and this is then, what was it? Message, I think, right? So it is message, this is hello JDD from Babel with some fire. So what it means is, and again, what I'm using right now is there are no frameworks, nothing. I'm just, using the DOM and a web component. So, okay, nice. So you can say, cool, we can do something with it. It's not that simple, because if I would try to do something like this, button, and Spitfire, which the sculpture in Krakow, I saw the fires, it's actually operational, and every 5 minutes it happens. So if you visit Krakow, so and in order to get the reference to the thing here, what I will have to do is, by the way, what killed jQuery is something like this query selector. I can ask for the button, and then say, hey, click, and then register a function, which is basically a Java lambda with a fat arrow, and say console log smoke spit fire. So, and now let's see whether it works. So it doesn't, or it doesn't. Wait a second. I don't even know. This query selector all. So, and now try that. Still doesn't. It doesn't matter, because I think it's on click. Why it doesn't matter? By the way, this is query selector, document query selector. This why it doesn't matter? Because you shouldn't. It actually works, but it wouldn't matter. So this is an exception from the rule what I showed you. And by the way, I promise you something. I was git add smoke is spitting fire. jQuery killed, basically. Okay, so the smoke killed jQuery. So you wouldn't do that. What you will do instead? So let's do something more professional and move to lit HTML. So the problem is not that this is not, operational, what I showed you. It is not very safe. So what could happen is that you would load some stuff from, I don't know, server, and then you could just inject malicious JavaScript code like error handlers and hack the website, which is not viable for companies. So therefore, what I like to use is lit HTML. So you can say, okay, you told us no frameworks. This is, I wouldn't call it framework. It is actually one JavaScript file, which is around 500 lines of code with JS doc, and this is what is the remainder of the Polymer framework from Google, and is used a lot in all component models. So I would like to use that to show you the difference. So before we do this, I would like to show you something, so explain something. So we could have let's say, call it Dragon, because we already have Smog, and the Dragon is a function, and the function has two parameters. So the first and others. And so what I can do in JavaScript, if you're interested in what I'm doing, it is called ES6 string literal. And what I would like to do is to return now, the first plus like that. Second, others. And what I can do right now is to prepend the dragon here. Dragon. And I can see Smog from Babel with. So it works somehow. So it seems like the JavaScript ES6 reacts to the things here. And what you can do with ES6 is you can extend JavaScript in browser with your own template rendering engine. And what I'm showing right now is the template rendering engine from Google, which is extension from this, which from my point of view is actually great because it extends the standard and it comes with some more advantages. So what I would like to do is to use that. And how to use that, so what I have to do is first is to import that. And this is in Smoke UI source. So what you could do, you can go to the page, and say import lit HTML from CDN or whatever. So what we do in our projects is we use a Jenkins pipeline, which downloads this once, combines that in a dependency file, and we use it from our own Nexus or a web server. And so to imitate that, I created a script, and this is lit HTML. And what the script does, it just copies this lit HTML JS, and this is the entire thing here. And it comes, it's more than that. So I was 1,200 with JSDoc, but as you can see, it exports a lot of stuff which we are using right now. And the question is how I got that is there are more modern tools, build tools, which you can use. And I use Snowpack, for instance. What it does is it searches for references for such frameworks and downloads them and creates a file or multiple files, something like a Webpack, but is standard based, Snowpack. And another one is Rollup.js, which does the same. It follows all the imports, gathers everything together, and creates one standard ASM module. So I did it. And if you're curious, go to my YouTube channel. I did it live, but I would say time is too precious. Let's focus on the smoke. Now I can use it. And how to use it, I will have to import that first. So import and go here and say what I need is HTML and render. And by the way, you have always to use the autocompletion. So it usually it will be import statement from lit HTML. JS, and then you get HTML autocompletion here. So this is how I should show you this because it's easier. So if I change that to HTML, you will hopefully see an object. So what it means is what I got back here is no more a string, it's like pre-compiled template, which it really is. So we could actually try to see this const template, and this we don't need anymore. And then say console log, and just try to find out what the template actually is. And the template, you will see this is template result. This is something precompiled, which is important because of security and performance. So what lit HTML does is it re-renders only parts of the page which really change, which is really important for more complex apps where we have unidirectional data flow, which means we are changing the state of the store, and everything gets automatically re-rendered, and we don't have to care about the performance usually because only parts are re-rendered which are actually changed. And this happens in lit HTML without virtual DOM, without any magic actually. So now we have the template, and now I can say use the other function, and the function is render the template into the component. So, and now we have the same smoke, the same output, but a little bit faster and safer with lit HTML. But the cool story is I get some syntactic sugar with it. Now, where is my button? Here's the button. Now I can say, cool. So now do this a little bit insane mode equals, and now I can say what I would like to do here is the following. I would like to do this and say this spit fire, and I'm calling method which does not exist yet spitfire, and this spitfire method is console log spitting like crazy. So now, if I do this, you see it is working. So what we get, we have data binding, event binding with one library. What I usually do in more complex projects, we are using this Redux, which is another class. So I would say in mid-range project for me, you will find lit HTML and Redux, sometimes Moment.js, and if we need complex visualizations, D3.js. The cool story with this approach is if you find a component you like, let's say old jQuery component, you can very easily wrap it with a web component and just reuse it. This is what we do, for instance, with complex tables. So this is the lit HTML, and the lit HTML is pretty efficient, not efficient, also powerful. And for instance, if you go to get started, you will find that if you work with lit HTML, it actually looks like React without React. So okay, now lit HTML covered, Redux covered, and Apple also just shipped web components. Just means last year they did it, and there are also web components from ING, and there are Lion components. This is actually what I wanted to do. Is the Lion ING Lion components. And the great story is that the Lion components are not styled. They are vanilla components, so you can just use them and style them as you like. And we have the web components from Vaadin, which are ready to use. Ready to use means you can just copy the component over and use it. So this we use a lot. We use date pickers, auto suggest boxes, whatever we find, you can reuse that. But it's the same true is for if you're working with Angular and React, you also can pick whatever you like. So nothing special there. And the UI5 web components, interestingly, are actually from SAP. And the one of the most used components is the date picker, which is directly usable in the app. So we have that, and what Vaadin also comes with was a nice Vaadin router. Okay, but now, so we have the, let's say, git add, and what we did is lit HTML introduced, and then I will just push it to you, so you can enjoy during the session the highly sustainable smoke, which hopefully will work in 10 years or 7 years in 2027 JDD. So we have that. Now let's see whether we manage, to call from here our smoke from Monday. So what I would like to do is to switch to the smoke from Monday. Open this in the same editor, Visual Studio Code. This is one of the reasons why I really like Visual Studio Code. And what we did is I threw an exception. You see here. So what is this? It is a resource called Smog, and we covered some non-functional aspects on Quarkus. But I created this, and what I would like to do is, to remove the exception, because we don't like exceptions with Smogs, and just add this, and I don't need that anymore. So, and let's see how it works. So I can just say Maven compile Quarkus dev, and hopefully no Java is running on my machine. Lucky. So then curl localhost, let's see, 8080 and smog. Cool. So we get the smog with as JSON is age 500, capabilities Spitfire, its children, and name is Fake Dragon. I don't know why I name it Fake Dragon. You have to rewatch the first session, but Fake Dragon. Okay, now, how to call that? So what I will have to do is, so where is my other Visual Studio Code? I lost my editor. Here. So what I can do is, first, I don't like promises. I mean, promises are fine, but it's really hard to work with. So what I can do is I can say this method is async, which is very easy to to explain Java developers, because it's more like asynchronous in micro profile and or future completable future. And now I can do the fetch, and I say what I'm interested in is HTTP. And then localhost and 8080, and actually the smog. This is the resource, and then I would like to wait until the response is available. And then I would like to do the response.json and do the await here and say I'm interested in the JSON. And then instead of doing this, take a look at the curl no, curl localhost 8080, and this was smog. And what we got is capabilities age name. So what I can do is I can destructure this const, and this is capabilities age and the name of the smog, and the and then say this is the JSON. And I can do here, let's say, okay, just to show that it works, I could just use the variables here and say capabilities, and then and what was it? H and name. So, and if I click the button, I think we get trouble. Yeah, and the trouble is I forgot about the course. So I actually wanted to do this after the show, but it wouldn't be fair. So how to fix that? And to fix that, we will have to reconfigure the backend app and say course true. And yeah, this was the configuration. And now come back and try the same again. As you can see, it is working. What is not working is that I thought I'm in the shell, but I'm in JavaScript. Let's say smog data from backend, and I got this. So if I do this the same, you see I'm actually receiving the data from the backend. So if I quickly change the backend and say here the dragon, where was it? Here, not fake, nice dragon, and he's older. I know it. It should be around 700 years. So let's fix that and try it again. So you can see 700 years. It spits fire and a nice dragon, no fake dragon, so it seems to work. Okay, now we have combined two talks into one, and this is async backend communication is working. So, and again, how I found the dev docs.io, how I find the fetch, because if I would search for the fetch, I get fetch API, and this comes with the browser. So you don't need any external frameworks. You can just rely on what the browser is able to do. And usually it uses promises, which looks like that, but with the async await, which is supported by our browsers, you can just use it right away. Okay, now we have some time left. So usually what I do is I show some CSS, whatever. What CSS is great. You don't need, a foundation or bootstrap. You can just use built-in grid or flex layout, for instance. It is as powerful as Java was before with like grid back layout. And it is really sane. It's not what we did, clear left on clear right. It is just, you can specify the thing. So, but what I promised you, or what I said is I'm able, to add the third-party components. So, and what I'm also using, I'm writing a small script which just copies over, let's say, UI, the date picker. So let's do this, UI5, and what it will do is it just copied completely wrong. I'm in the wrong folder, source. Do it again. Now I should, date picker. And this date picker is actually the SAP date picker I used. This is the same date picker here. And what I will have to do is I have to learn, the syntax. So I'll just use this here. And I could use it inside the component, let's say here. So this is the date picker. So you see, this is not active. Why not? Because I have to import that. So let's do this. Import. And this is the, what was it? Date picker, JS. And this is because there is no translations. So usually you will need, to copy the translations over. I was too lazy for now. And actually, I don't have to use anything. It's just enough to load the component. As you can see, it is already operational. And let's say I would like, to know when the, I think it was in the, unfortunately, it doesn't work. So the dragon was born in 1400, what I read from Wikipedia, and this is 2013. So this is not suitable for dragons, but for enterprise users, just fine. So, and what I could do is, or as you can see, there is what they are doing here. There is a change event which is emitted. So let's see what we can do here. I can say, okay, then change and say I would like to pick the date. And I need the event and say this smoke birthday. And I would like to pass the E. Okay, so and this can be smoke birthday is the event and console log event. And let's see, so I need the console back, then choose a date. And as you can see, there's a custom event, and this is great. Custom event is a part of the web platform standard. So I think in the detail, what I have to know is I'm only interested in the detail. So I say, okay, I think the detail is the payload detail. Otherwise, we will have to quickly take a look. Detail and like this. So do it the same. So you see value. So okay, it's also nice. But what I would like to see is I would like actually only get the value. And what I'm doing here is called destructuring. So on value, and I have the date. So raw date. So this is how easy it is to integrate the component. So how easy is it really? So I can actually show you. So we have still 6 minutes. So I can show you something. So what I do is I have, let's say, UI5. And what I have here, a rollup config script. And if you take a look at the rollup config script, this is actually the entire thing. It goes to the node modules UI5 web components and says, okay, pick this and output this. I'm actually curious whether it works. Rollup -C. And it works. So this was the process before. So now there is no magic. That's the entire setup I needed to convert, the maybe proprietary SAP UI5 component into standard AS5 components. And with that, this is in this folder. I have the date picker, and which is from now, hopefully. And the table is older. Is 1 year old. I need table for another project, so I use that. So this is the approach, and you can ask me, no, but this copying is not really, enterprise ready. Who does that? The cool story is this happens on Jenkins. So we have per team a Jenkins pipeline, and all the components we need, I created, versioned, checked in to a web server directory. And the cool story is the browser is able to cache way better. Because with that, the URI always remains the same, and we always get the cache hit in web as well as from the developer machines. So this is why it is hard to, because it's a little bit boring to show you Jenkins pipelines, but it is fairly easy. And Snowpack does exactly the same. It's a little bit more convenient than Rollup. So Snowpack uses Rollup behind the scenes, and what it does is you will have import components you like, and it will just pull the components and convert them into standard ES6 modules. So you are not asking any questions, which is this is why we can cover so much stuff. So this is actually the reason. I think we have still 3 minutes to go. So what I wanted to show you, or so we saw this. This is the repository, again, junk. For 2-3 days, you can just download from there. And I created a web components with Redux training application, which is a little bit more complex with it. Actually uses Redux. I show you how to debug, how to test that without frameworks. And it is a part of the course, but you don't have to buy the course. The code is completely free. And the course is fairly popular. It was downloaded from 50, 60 countries or something like this. So it's crazy. And yeah, and this is actually, what I did here is like, the very compact version of that. And what I also would like to show you, so this is the Vaadin web components. It's exactly the same. So you can have, date picker from Vaadin. I will be exactly the same approach. And in one project, these Vaadin web components are wrapped with a thin layer and used by a larger application, so they can swap between components. And what Vaadin also shines is called Vaadin router. So a Vaadin router is a small component, which is really great. And what the component does, this is the entire configuration. There's a web component. You can say, in case of this route, component with this name is going to be loaded, and it works perfectly. But you could write, component by yourself. It's not a big deal. So let's see what else. I think we covered all the stuff I wanted to cover, which is unusual because you are so, I don't know whether you're nice, so silence audience. You should get tons of questions, so I don't cover a lot. So with that, I would like to come back to Sylvia, to studio. Or do you have any questions? So challenge me, ask me. You say, no, it will never work. So,
well, Adam, thank you. Over 100 people were listening to your talk and not a single question was asked.
Yeah, you know what? Now everything is recorded. We should meet us, in 7 years, 2027. This is my cadence, and see whether the code will be still operational and whether I was right that this is the future.
Yeah. Well, there was no question, but there was one comment actually that the Polish dragon doesn't eat kids but virgins. So
virgins, okay, but okay, sorry. So the next talk I will fix that.
So thanks to Pavel who said that. Adam, thank you a lot. It was a great piece of code and a great presentation. And well, we hope to see you at the next JDD.
Thank you.
Thank you a lot.
Bye.
So, wait, just a minute. I think we have one question.
Very good.
Maybe what about packaging of the whole stuff?
Yeah, packaging. You can use Rollup or Snowpack to package. So this is your decision whether you create one file or multiple files. If you have a single page application with multiple views, we can create one file, per route. And Rollup and Webpack support, of course, code splitting, so it works out of the box. What we do also in some project, this is more interesting, we do nothing. So there is if you like, minification, which is not required for enterprise projects, but you can push all the files in advance with HTTP2 in advance to the browser, which results in better performance, usually, in enterprise environments. Very good question. Thank you. Other one?
No, just one more comment that it was a great speech.
Oh, thank you.
And indeed, it was a great speech. Really, thank you, big thank you, Adam. And we hope to see you at the next JDD. And speaking about which, we have a great and huge announcement that the next date of JDD conference of 2021 is already known, and the registration will start soon. We are going to meet each other at the October 11 and 12. So mark the date in your calendar, and you, Adam, as well. We'll be glad to have you with us as well. And let's hope 2021 will be better than 2020 and we'll be able to meet in person, but let's see.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam, a lot. And everyone, please.
And in 2021, the smog will eat virgins, no more children.
Lunchtime, so see you everyone at 1 p.m. Thank you, Adam.
Bye.